Imagine this. It's a bright, sunny morning in 1955. A plane, Pan Am Flight 914, lifts off from the runway in New York, carrying 92 souls, all excited for their trip to sunny Miami. But then, something unbelievable happens. The aircraft simply vanishes from radar screens. There's no distress call, no sign of wreckage, nothing. It just disappears into thin air. Decades fly by. The world outside changes completely. We get new technology, new music, new everything. But Flight 914 remains a ghost, a forgotten file in aviation archives. Until 37 years later, the impossible happens. The very same plane lands at an airport, and even more shockingly, all the passengers are still on board, and they haven't aged a single day. Let's rewind to that fateful day, July 2nd, 1955. Pan Am Flight 914 was just a routine flight. It took off from JFK Airport in New York with 88 passengers and a crew of 4. The weather was perfect. The crew was experienced, everything seemed completely normal. About an hour after takeoff, as it was flying over the Atlantic Ocean, the plane just disappeared. Air traffic controllers frantically tried to raise them on the radio, but all they got back was static. A massive search and rescue operation was launched immediately. Ships and aircraft combed thousands of square miles of the ocean, searching for any sign of the missing plane. But they found absolutely nothing. Not a single oil slick on the water, not one piece of the fuselage. Eventually, the airline had no choice but to declare the plane lost and presume that everyone on board had tragically died in an accident. Families mourned their loved ones, and as time passed, the mystery of Flight 914 faded into a forgotten legend. Now, fast forward to May 21st, 1992, at the Air Traffic Control Center in Caracas, Venezuela. It's just another ordinary day until it's suddenly interrupted. An unidentified blip appears on the radar, approaching their airspace at high speed. The controllers try to make contact. The response they get back leaves them completely baffled. The voice on the other end is calm, but confused. It's the pilot of an old plane, a Douglas DC-40. And he identifies himself as Pan Am Flight 914. He's asking for clearance to land, stating his destination is Miami. The controller, Juan de la Corte, tries to make sense of the situation. He asks the pilot if he knows his current location. The pilot replies that he thinks he's approaching Miami. That's when Juan delivers the bombshell. He informs the pilot of the current date, May 21st, 1992. On the other end of the radio, there's a moment of shocked silence, which is quickly followed by pure panic. The pilot screams, "Where are we? My God, we're in 1992. In a mixture of confusion and caution, the control tower grants the plane permission to land. They dispatch ground crews to meet the aircraft, which by now is a relic from another era. The plane makes a perfect landing on the runway, through the cockpit window. The controllers can see the terrified and bewildered faces of the passengers, staring out at a world they don't recognize at all. But just as the ground crews began to approach the plane, something even stranger happened. The pilot, in a state of sheer panic, shouts over the radio, "Don't come near, we're leaving now." He revs up the engines, and before anyone can react, the old plane speeds down the runway, takes off with a surprising amount of force, and vanishes back into the clouds, just as mysteriously as it had appeared. So, what evidence was left behind from this ghostly encounter? Well, at the very spot where the plane had briefly touched down, the ground crews found something incredible: a small pocket calendar, dated 1955. It was like a fragment of lost time, left behind as the only proof of this impossible event. The story spread like wildfire. Newspapers, most famously the Weekly World News, plastered the story on their front pages with sensational headlines about the ghost plane. Their reports included photos of the flight controller, Juan de la Corte, and the little calendar they found on the runway. So, what really happened here? Well, the most widely accepted explanation is that the whole thing was a journalistic hoax, a story completely fabricated by the Weekly World News, a tabloid famous for its wild and fantastical stories. And if you dig into the records, there is no concrete evidence that a Pan Am Flight 914 ever existed or disappeared in 1955. The photos used in the articles were taken from other contexts, and the name of the flight controller doesn't match any employee who actually worked at the Caracas Airport at that time. But despite all that, the story just refuses to die. For many people, the idea of a time warp, a wormhole that snatched the plane and transported it across the decades, is just far more compelling. Could the plane have accidentally entered some kind of space-time anomaly, traveling 37 years into the future in just a few hours? Other theories suggest it might have been a secret military experiment that went horribly wrong, or maybe even an encounter with extraterrestrial technology. The complete lack of solid evidence to either prove or disprove the story is what keeps it alive and breathing. The tale of Flight 914 has become a modern myth, a narrative that truly challenges our understanding of reality. Whether it's a clever work of fiction or a genuine historical anomaly, the legend of Flight 914 makes us question what we think we know. It taps into that deep fascination we all have with the nature of time and the great unknown. If time can bend, if the past can literally land in our present, what else is possible out there? Stories like this remind us that the universe is still full of mysteries, and that sometimes the line between what's real and what's legend is incredibly thin, and that's why we continue to tell this story, passing it down from one generation to the next. So, what do you think? Was it a brilliant hoax, or did we get a brief glimpse of something beyond our comprehension? Let me know your theory in the comments ID. Love to read what you think about this incredible mystery. And if you enjoy stories that defy logic, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the unknown. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.